Now, much like the AFC North, I think the NFC North is another strong division where you've got, the Green Bay Packers are a team that can contend for a Super Bowl. The Vikings are a playoff caliber team if they don't have huge injuries like they did last year. And a lot of people forget that the Chicago Bears did make the playoffs last year with Mitchell Trubisky. So that, and then there's the Lions. So this this division is a little interesting, and I'm going to start at the top. The clear class of the NFC North is the Green Bay Packers. They've been one of the best teams in the NFC, one of the top 5 NFL teams out there the last several years, with Aaron Rodgers back, ready to go this year. Nothing's going to change really right there. The Packers are going to be good. The Packers are going to be, challenging. It's almost a lock to put them in to the NFC Championship game. And then it's battling it out with the Buccaneers, battling it out with, potentially, the Seahawks or the Rams to get to that Super Bowl. And I think the Packers have just as good chances of any of those teams. And like I said, them and the Bucs, I think, are the teams to watch to get into the Super Bowl for the NFC. And when I think about the Packers, everything that went on this offseason, it makes me think of, is this the last dance? And I know we had the documentary with the Bulls and all that. It just kind of has that vibe of, they kind of know it. Stuff's going to be changed after this year. And as much as I don't think the Packers want to move on from Aaron Rodgers, I just kind of think it's going to happen at the end of this year. And so they're just going to push to have one great year. And then I think they're going to move on from him, go with Jordan Love. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll move on from Jordan Love and extend Rodgers. To me, it just seems like something's going to change. And so this is our last ride. And it's going to be a good one, I think. You've got Aaron Rodgers. You've got, they extend Aaron Jones. They've got Devontae Adams there, who he's looking for a big deal. So it won't shock me after the end of this year, Rodgers gets traded, Devontae Adams gets franchised, pushes for a deal. They trade him, do a sign and trade or a tag and trade, whatever you want to call it. And, the kind of things kind of get blown up a little bit, and then they kind of go more towards their 49er style offense that LaFleur wants to run. But like I said, this team is good. Anytime you get Aaron Rodgers on the field, they're going to be awesome. It's just because he's good. He's really good. You may not like him personally, but he is easily an elite talent at quarterback. Got an elite receiver, got an elite running back. I think the offensive line, in my opinion, is kind of taking a little step back. It's still good. You still got David Bakhtiari. You still got a few other guys, but I don't think it's as good as they've had the last couple of years. Defensively, I think they added some good pieces. They still got, you still got Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith. You still got, I think Rashawn Gary showed some flashes. You still got the guys in the secondary. So there's a lot of talent there. It's just, can they get over the hump? Last year they seemed, they had the choice of going for the field goal. And I think, if they might have been a little aggressive, who knows? Maybe we talk about them in the Super Bowl and potentially beating the Chiefs. Instead, they're, I think, a decision away from potentially getting to that Super Bowl. So has LaFleur learned from this? Can they make that adjustment? Maybe they're just that better and they don't get put in that situation. So is LaFleur grown as a coach? Can he handle all this drama with Aaron Rodgers and the general manager? I think that will be the deciding factor of how good the Green Bay Packers are this year. Now, behind them, I think the Vikings. The Vikings last year didn't have a good season. That being said, I think, they picked like 13, 14. So a bad season for the Vikings was still not even a top 10 team in the draft. And they just had so many injuries. They traded for Yannick Ngakoue, thinking he was going to be a final piece. And then Daniil Hunter gets hurt. They have Michael Pierce opts out. They have injuries to all their top corners. Offense, all these things happen. So if they can get those defenders back, you're getting Michael Pierce back, stout run defender. You signed the defensive tackle from the Giants, Dalvin Tomlinson. So you're stout up front. You got Daniil Hunter back. Everson Griffin's back. I don't, he's nothing more than a role player at this point. But you got Anthony Barr back. You got all these guys are back. And so the defense should get back to its old form. Now you're mixing in the offense. Now you got Justin Jefferson, who completely broke out last year. Another year with him. You got Dalvin Cook, who you're going to run the ball behind. They got Christian Darrisaw, who they're going to work into the offensive line. He's not going to start the season, but you got, I think, a strong offensive line, a good running back. Kirk Cousins gets crapped on a bunch, but I think he's still a top half of the league starter. And he didn't have to, he's going to have to make some clutch throws if they want to win some key games. But they're going to rely on that running game. He's going to get the ball to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. As long as they don't have a litany of injuries to their roster, especially on defense like they did last year, they're going to make the playoffs again. I mean, that's what other than last year was the abnormality. They were a playoff caliber team, and they were getting in the playoffs. They didn't maybe go very far, but they were still making the playoffs. Now, another team that made the playoffs last year, and I think that's what a lot of people forget, the Chicago Bears. It's easy to make fun of the Bears this year. Andy Dalton's going to be their starting quarterback, but everyone forgets that the Chicago Bears made the playoffs last year. As easy as it made fun of them and blah, 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 they were terrible, blah, blah, blah. They still made the playoffs last year playing Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky. Now, Andy Dalton's their starter. But we know at some point Justin Fields is going to get in there and start. When that will happen, we don't know. I guess it all depends on how Andy Dalton and his team does. Now, if he goes out there and he's not looking bad, they're winning games, they're competitive, I think he's going to be able to hold off Justin Fields, a little bit. I think the worst case scenario is, the latest that Justin Fields gets in is week 9 after their bye week. Otherwise, if Dalton struggles horribly, the Bears aren't winning, Fields is going to get in there. And I know it's, you might say, well, Fields has played well in the preseason. He's the future. Get him out there, get him that experience. I get that, and I can see what you're saying. But you also don't want to put him out there before he's ready. And, who knows when he's ready, really? But the Bears don't have the best offensive line, especially at tackle. I think guard to guard, the Bears' offensive line is not bad. Cody Whitehair, Sam Mustipher, and James Daniels, I think they got a solid interior. It's just tackles are the question. Taven Bryan's got his back injury. They cut Charles Leno. They had to sign Jason Peters. You got Elijah Wilkinson. You got Jermaine Ifedi. Lots of moving pieces and not a lot of things to be, I was excited about Tevin Jenkins, but his back was probably why he fell to the second round, and now it's flaring up. The key is Fields. Can he be Justin Herbert? Last year Justin Herbert was going to sit. He was going to sit. They had the veteran and Tyrod Taylor. He was their starter. They're going to bring him in, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, Herbert had to start right away or start that Chiefs game because of the injection went into Taylor's lungs. And then Herbert hit and played well, and they couldn't put Tyrod Taylor back in there. Minus hopefully an injury to Andy Dalton, can Fields jump in and play like Dalton did or like Herbert did? And he comes in and shows why he was an early round pick. I am shocked that the Bears got Justin Fields at 11. Justin Fields is my second-rated quarterback. I thought he was locked to be a top 5. I thought some team was going to trade up to him. I didn't think teams like the Broncos or the Panthers or, whoever else, the Dolphins, the Lions. I could go on. These teams are passing on Justin Fields for what? Because he has epilepsy and might have a seizure. Because he might stare down. I don't know. There's issues. Whatever. I think he's going to be proven that all the naysayers wrong. But you don't want to put him out there and have him get destroyed, and confidence and all those issues. But if Justin Fields can come in and have that Justin Herbert type impact, which I think he can. As I said, The Bears were a playoff team last year. And I know they don't have Kyle Fuller at corner, and they don't have Cordell Patterson as their kick returner, but they return most of their team. And I think the defense is going to be better under Sean Desai. I think the offensive line, is a work in progress. It wasn't great last year. I think this team can surprise everybody. But the problem is they have one of the toughest schedules. They have a top 3 toughest schedule, and I think that's going to hurt them. They've got some holes, whereas like I said, they're a playoff team last year, and they have talent. And if Fields comes and he plays like Justin Herbert, they can win some games. It's still an extremely tough schedule. And because of that, I think they're going to lose. I wouldn't shock if they picked in the top 10. Solely for the fact that they got some holes. They got a potential rookie quarterback that's going to be starting most of the year. And they have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. Unfortunately, you don't have that top 10 pick that you would get to be able to add a weapon with Justin Fields because you traded up for him. But that being said, if Justin Fields looks like Justin Herbert last year, you'll be fine because you got your quarterback of the future and probably, the best quarterback you have in franchise history. And finally, the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, in my opinion, are going to be one of the teams that are going to be contending for that number 1 pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. I think it's the Lions and the Texans are the easy favorites for that number 1 pick, just because the Lions roster isn't good. Offensive line might be pretty okay. Taylor Decker, you've got Penei Sewell. They've invested in that offensive line. So I think the offensive line will be solid, but what else do you have? Jared Goff is their quarterback. Jared Goff is Jared Goff. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Matthew Stafford. I think he's an okay starter, right? Not a guy that you're probably going to build your franchise around at this point, but I think he's a capable starter. But who does he have to throw the ball to? I mean, really, who does he have? Kenny Galladay's gone. I mean, Golden Tate's been gone for a while. Amon St. Brown it was their top addition to this receiving core. So the receiving core is going to be terrible. I mean, Goff had his issues last year and the year before, the previous years, and he had Cooper Kupp and he had Robert Woods and he had Brandon Cooks and he had his issues there. So what's he going to do with, a rookie, a couple of guys that aren't very good? Running backs, you got DeAndre Swift, you got Jamal Williams, you've got, they've got some guys, and I just think not a good quarterback, some okay running backs, some crappy receivers. This offense is going to be a mess. Defensively, there's not much talent otherwise. Jeffrey Okudah was the 3rd overall pick a couple years ago. He's struggled. He was one of the worst cornerbacks in the league his rookie year. There's just not a lot of talent on this team. And they're going to struggle. They've got a tough schedule, just like this whole division's got a tough schedule. The problem is the Packers the best team, one of the best teams in the league, so it's not going to matter to them. Vikings another quality team. So you got 2 good teams in your division. You got the Bears, who they'll probably split with, or lose both games too. Tough schedule. That's why I think them and Texans are a lock for that number 1 overall pick. I think they're going to battle all year. The problem is there's no Trevor Lawrence. There's no Justin Fields. There's no Trey Lance. Heck, there's not even a Mac Jones in this upcoming draft. So, be curious to see what they do. Will they go for a Sam Howell or a Spencer Rattler? Are those guys going to be true top 5 caliber quarterbacks? I'm a little bullish that they're not at this point. We'll see how their season goes. But if you're a team that's going to be needing a quarterback and picking at the top of this draft, might not be the best year for a quarterback.